Hey everybody, welcome to beautiful San Antonio, Texas, where Volkswagen has flown Case and I down to check out what, Case?
We are checking out the new Volkswagen Taos. They have updated this car pretty thoroughly, and in today's video, we're going to walk you through everything inside, out, and underneath that's different.
Yeah, dude, and the cool thing is, usually a facelift on a car usually involves a slightly different headlight design, maybe some interior tweaks, but this Taos actually has a bunch of mechanical changes which should, fingers crossed, completely transform the driving experience because they have fixed the biggest problem with this car, which made it a no-buy for me, and we're going to tell you all about that in a second. But Case, let's talk a little bit about the design because it is pretty updated.
Yeah, and it looks very fresh. You know, this is a segment of vehicle that is very competitive, and so you want to have a design that feels new, feels like it's up there with the freshest stuff on the market, and I think this definitely checks that box.
It's got a little kinky, can't say that, but there's a new kink in the headlight here, which kind of gives it a new updated look, and there's some really cool colors, including this green. Now this green is called the bright moss green, and it is absolutely fantastic. I love that Volkswagen now is embracing colors, right? Everything is not just black or silver or gray. You can really get some cool colors. This one being a top trim SCL also has these big wheels, a two-tone look, a little bit like what Subaru's doing, Case, with the Crosstrek. But that right there is a 235/45 R19 wrapped in this alloy wheel. Looks cool. A little bit of cladding along the side, and then as we come along the profile, a crisp line which helps extend the look of the vehicle, blacked out B-pillar, and then out back we're going to find a pretty unique feature with this little emblem.
Yeah, actually, I think it'll be easier to show on this one because this one is slightly more shaded, but the logo actually lights up, which is pretty fun, especially because the tail light goes all the way across the back, so they kind of tied it into the badge. I think that's cool.
I like that a lot. You got that continuous light bar. One thing I'm going to give a little bit of a zoink to are the faux tailpipes. Now, this SE, they don't even outline them in chrome like they do on that SCL, so they don't even look like tailpipes on some of the trims. I also like on this SCL how we've got, obviously, not a super functional bash plate, but we've got kind of this two-tone look, which gives it a more rugged feel. So some cool things. This is the 4Motion version, so you can get it in both all-wheel drive and front wheel drive. And speaking of which, I'm going to pop the hood on this moss green.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the biggest news, because Case, I'm hoping, we're going to drive this car here shortly, that they have fixed the biggest issue with the Taos.
Yeah, so we've actually done some testing with the Taos. I love that you're figuring out where it opens up for the first time on camera. Very bold. But we have done some testing with the previous Taos on some very light trails, nothing too crazy, just to see how the all-wheel drive system handled. And the dual clutch system was not very good.
It was not good, not even on trails, just cruising around everyday stop and go traffic. You ended up with this really bad combination of transmission lag as the dual clutch would engage and turbo lag as the 1.5 turbo would actually spool up. And it was very hard to drive the old Taos smoothly. But now, thank goodness, the Taos has gotten rid of that 7-speed DSG in favor of a 1.5 liter. This is an updated version of the EA211, and now this all-wheel drive version we're looking at has an 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission.
Yeah, we've also got 174 horsepower instead of 158, so 16 more horsepower, so a little bit of an improvement there. Still 184 pound-feet of torque, and it's a nice little power bump, but I think, like yourself, the thing I'm most excited about is going to a more traditional automatic versus the dual clutch. And at some point, we'll probably get one of these out in Colorado, be able to test it again on some very light trails to see how the all-wheel drive system does. I think it's going to be a market improvement.
I'm stoked about that. Yeah, so Case, I'm going to grab the camera from you, and I'm going to let you hand model the interior of the Taos. So why don't you go over to the driver's side? We're going to check out this SCL first, and we're going to find some cool features in here. So even though this is an entry-level crossover, they didn't cheap out with some of the interior colors and materials. We have these really nice dual-tone seats.
It's been one of our critiques with Volkswagen for a long time, is fairly drab interiors with not a lot of contrast. They're starting to work on changing that a little bit. So like you can see, and like Tommy pointed out, we have a combination of light and dark materials in here, which does give the interior just a little bit more interest. And I think it's worthwhile. I'd still love to see some color in this interior, maybe bring in some fun colors, especially for all the fun exterior colors you can have on this. I would love it if this maybe had some body color elements inside. But aside from that, it's a nice interior. We've got heated and ventilated seats. We don't always love this style of control, the kind of haptic feedback control, but you know, still nice to have those features.
Dual zone auto climate, and you can do a little bit of a slide as well on the climate controls to actually change the temperatures. Case, we are both on agreement that, you know, the touch sensitive panels not always our favorite.
Yeah.
But one thing which I appreciate is the steering wheel actually has physical buttons and controls, right?
Yeah, absolutely, which is nice to have. And then looking at this center screen here, this is, I believe, an 8-inch screen, and it's got kind of a big bezel around it.
Yeah, that's very true. Ignore the warnings here. This car is in like a presentation mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a touchscreen display, and I do love some of the colors in here, right? So it's not just monotone. They've got some red in here, and then if we go to, you know, some of the app capability, we got CarPlay. We got a lot of great features in here, and we still have retained a couple of knobs, so shortcuts along the edges, but volume and tune, which is just great to see.
And Volkswagen's done this for a long time and drives some people crazy, but the orientation of that changes as you move it around. Would that bug you?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
So yeah. I remember we had a Mark 7 GTI at the office for a week, and every time I would turn the radio off, I would always have to make sure, there you go.
Yeah, you got to straighten it out.
But Case, one thing I will say, seats are nice and comfy, pretty supportive, which is good.
For sure.
Also, check this out. We got the pano screen with the opening sunroof, which is a super nice feature.
It is.
And let's see how wide it opens. Dude, it opens big wide. Look at that.
Yeah, it's a big piece of glass, so it's pretty nice. You can even bring the shade all the way back there.
That's awesome.
Should we see how the back seat is?
Yeah, we should. One other thing I want to point out here too, it does have different modes, including some terrain modes and snow modes, couple cup holders, good sized little center console.
Yeah.
Piano black across here, I'm not too upset with because this is not a high touch point, right? Like it's not likely to get scratched up.
Yeah,
and
fingerprinted so
in the center here, we've got a durable material. So that's the best way to do piano black is when you don't have to interact with it. Well, the shifter is pretty shiny.
Also got a big digital cockpit there
in
front.
Looking good.
It's also worth noting too that if you spec one of these higher trim levels like this SEL, all-wheel drive is going to be standard, which is nice. We come out of Colorado, so having all-wheel drive is always a plus for us. But here in the back seat, for a smaller crossover, really not a bad place to sit. I'm not the biggest person at our office, not the tallest, but still decent headroom, decent leg room, even sitting behind myself there in the front seat.
Yeah, man, actually, I mean, I'm really impressed with the room back here. The only zoink I have against it, thanks to Rady there, is taking his word, is the center tunnel is very big. And we have one USB-C port.
So you'll have to fight over it unless you have a splitter. But we do have vents back here, which is always nice to see on a vehicle that's more of an entry-level price point. And we'll talk about the price as well.
In case
we
do have that 40-60 split, we even have
ski pass-through.
Dude, look at that.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
All right, coming around to the rear, they put the fuel filler on the correct side. We always like to see that so you're not in traffic if you have an emergency. And then out back, really good sized trunk back here. Seats do fold down even from the back very easily, and they do fold not quite flat. You've got a little bit of a gap there, which is a bit of a shame. Let's look at the underfloor. Spare tire, it's space saver, but at least we got one.
Now I'm going to reference my notes here for some numbers that I want to get right. If you get a front wheel drive model like that, behind the rear seats, you're going to have 27.9 cubic feet of space and 65.9 if you fold them down. In this all-wheel drive model, a little bit less, 24.9 cubic feet with the seats up and 60.2 with the seats folded down. And I also, while I have this pulled up, have some fuel economy numbers.
Yeah, what you got, Case?
So if you get the front-wheel drive model, unsurprisingly, you will have slightly better fuel economy. So you'll have 28 mpg in the city. You have 36 highway and 31 combined. If you get the all-wheel drive like this, 25 city, 33 highway, and 28 combined. So still pretty good numbers there.
Now let's look at this SE really quick. Now starting price for the base S front wheel drive is going to be $24,995, but before the $1,400 destination, and then that goes up to $34,695 for an SCL.
Yeah, so it's going to be another $1,700 if you want to just get the all-wheel drive. But if you get a top model, you'll be well into the $30,000 range.
So interior on this SE, not all that different from a design standpoint. We do lose some of that cool two-tone, and we have a really interesting seat material, which is kind of neoprene-y. Feels a little bit adventurous there. I do like that. This SE, I think this is a black, still has the big sunroof there. We still have a similar size screen. We don't have like ventilated seats on this model, but it is still fairly well equipped for what's essentially $30,000. So you can save some money and skip the SEL if you don't have that much coin.
Yeah, and also if you don't need all-wheel drive, then you can save a little bit on fuel and save a little bit of money outright when you purchase by not getting that. But again, it depends a lot on what climate you're going to be driving in.
So Case, I think my big takeaway from this car, which I'm really impressed about, is they very much sweated the details. Stuff like the ski pass-through I think is great. The reduction of the piano black across the center is really nice. The steering wheel mechanical buttons is awesome. The switch to the torque converter is so welcome. So I'm actually pretty excited about this little Taos. I'm excited to see what it drives like.
It seems like they've hit a lot of the main points, which is, again, important in a very competitive segment of vehicles like this. And this newcomer, or not strictly a newcomer, but at least an updated version of an existing car, needs to be competitive in all those categories. So next up, what we're going to do is actually drive the car, see how it is entirely, but with our first look at it, getting to poke around a little bit and see what we like, I think it's got potential.
Guys, let us know what you think in the comment section below. This has been Tommy.
In Case.
Head over to All TFL for more videos. Thanks for watching.